I also want to introduce what we want to kind of cast a vision of to all of you in December. 4 calls, 4, I would say, pre-launch calls for us as a church. Now, when you hear the word launch, because we're calling January the 2nd Launch Sunday, I want you to just hear that word the same way you would hear grand opening. We've already launched as a church. We already exist as a church. We already function as a church. But we are going to kind of have a celebratory grand opening on January the 2nd, and we're doing the same thing on Christmas Eve. So those are the 2 gatherings. We're encouraging you guys to invite others too. And by the way, pick up those invitations, get those into the hands of people, even if they are members of other churches. Again, we want to pack this place out on those 2 services. So invite liberally. We want to celebrate like a grand opening on Christmas Eve and on January the 2nd. But as we move towards that, right? Like there'll be a lot of people on those Sundays who aren't going to be with us long term. And that's fine. It's a celebration in that way. But there will be some who will be exposed to Mercy Village Church for the very first time. And Lord willing, more and more people in 2022 will continue to be exposed to the truth of the gospel through the hands and feet and voices and lives of you and me at Mercy Village Church. That's the hope for 2022, that we start to see this place fill up. Again, not tracking numbers, but fill up with stories of life change, stories of people being exposed to the gospel on top of our own. We've already been experiencing that ourselves. So that's kind of that's what a launch Sunday is. That's what the Christmas Eve launch is all about. It's this grand opening, throwing open our doors and welcoming others. So over the next couple weeks, we're going to release 4 short videos. The first one will be tomorrow with 4 calls, pre-launch, pre-grand opening calls to us as Mercy Village Church. We're going to call, these are things that Pastor Josh Early and myself have felt led to lead us in the coming weeks. So number 1 is that we'll be a church that prays. And we're going to introduce that one tomorrow with a prayer calendar for the month of December. That every day we'll be praying for something specific as we lead into the Christmas Eve gathering and then to launch Sunday on January the 2nd. So we want to be a church who prays. We want to be a church who welcomes. We talked a little bit about this last week. We'll kind of condense that into a shorter video in the coming weeks, but we want to open wide our doors, open wide our arms, and welcome folks into our church. We want to be a church that disciples. We want to be making disciples. We're going to elaborate on what we mean by that in the coming weeks as well. And we want to be a church that serves, that we would sacrificially engage as we can, as is unique to each of our seasons in life, that we would engage in service, not just on Sunday mornings, but throughout the week in the work of the ministry of Mercy Village Church. And so we want to be a church that prays. We want to be a church that welcomes. We want to be a church that disciples, and we want to be a church that serves. And so we'll be laying those calls out in the coming weeks. And it is our prayer that all of us, myself included, will respond to that opportunity, those opportunities with joy. That this is our opportunity to yoke up with our big brother Jesus, join him in the work that he's already doing as we become a church that is more marked by these things. And I want to reiterate that. We believe that we are already marked by these things, but these are things that we think we have room to grow in forever. We'll always have room to grow in these things. And we want to see that growth happen, in particular as we prepare for launch. So, love you guys. Please tune in for those videos and watch them and hear that call. And may the Holy Spirit lead us each in unique ways for how we'll respond to those 4 calls to us, those pre-launch calls to us as Mercy Village Church.